You think you know pumpkins? Think again. Right now, somewhere in Ireland, farmers refuse to carve pumpkins after dark. In Japan, there's a village where pumpkins are left as offerings to appease angry spirits. And in parts of South America, there's a legend so terrifying that parents won't even let their children say the word pumpkin during certain months of the year. I'm talking about real legends. Ancient stories. Tales that have been whispered for centuries, long before Halloween became a commercialized holiday. These aren't your cute jack-o'-lantern stories. These are darker, stranger. And some of them, they might actually be true. Today, we're diving into the most chilling, bizarre, and downright unsettling pumpkin legends from around the world. From cursed harvests to supernatural guardians, from vengeful spirits to forbidden rituals, this is going to get wild. So buckle up. Before we get into the first story, let me set something straight. When most people think of pumpkins, they think of Halloween. Candy. Costumes. Starbucks lattes. But here's the thing, pumpkins have been part of human culture for over 7,000 years. 7,000 years. Long before America existed. Long before jack-o'-lanterns were even a concept. Ancient civilizations were growing pumpkins, worshipping them, fearing them, and weaving them into their darkest folklore. And what we're about to explore isn't some made-up creepypasta nonsense. These are legitimate cultural legends, passed down through generations, documented by historians and anthropologists. Some have been forgotten. Others are still practiced today. Now, I know what you're thinking. How scary can a pumpkin legend really be? Trust me. You're about to find out. Let's go to our first location, the misty Highlands of Scotland. In the Scottish Highlands, there's a valley called Glencoe. Beautiful place. Rolling hills, ancient stone cottages, fog that rolls in like a living thing. But talk to the locals, especially the older ones, and they'll tell you about the neep. Now, neep is the Scottish word for turnip, but the legend involves what they call the false neep, a pumpkin-like gourd that grows wild in the valley. And according to the story, you do not want to find one growing near your home. The legend goes back to the 1600s. A farmer named Callum MacLeod noticed a strange orange gourd growing in his field one autumn morning. He'd never planted it. Never seen one like it before. But it was massive, almost 3 feet wide, and it had this weird, almost face-like pattern on its skin. Callum's wife wanted to throw it out. She said it felt wrong. Cold to the touch even in the sunlight. But Callum, being practical, decided to carve it up and use it for lanterns. Let's jump across the world to Japan. Specifically, a small mountain village in Nagano Prefecture. Now, Japan has a deep respect for food, especially seasonal vegetables. And kabocha, Japanese pumpkin, is a big deal during autumn and winter. It's considered lucky, nutritious, a symbol of good harvest. But in this particular village, there's a kabocha legend that's anything but lucky. It's called the Noroi no Kabocha. The cursed pumpkin. The story dates back to the Edo period, around the 1700s. A wealthy landowner named Takashi controlled most of the farmland in the area. He was greedy, cruel, forced his workers to labor in brutal conditions. One autumn, the harvest was incredible, especially the kabocha. Huge, and everyone who ate it started experiencing the same hallucination. They saw Hannah standing in the corner of the room, staring at them with hollow eyes. Not moving. Not speaking. Just present. At first, they thought it was the sake. Bad food. Stress. But the vision didn't stop. Days turned into weeks. Hannah's ghost followed them everywhere. In their homes. In their sleep. Always watching. One by one, the landowners went mad. Some fled the village. Others took their own lives. Takashi himself was found in his storehouse, surrounded by rotting kabocha, mumbling incoherently about the old woman's eyes. Now here's where it gets interesting. The village still exists. And every year, they perform a ritual called the Kabocha Curse, a memorial service for discarded vegetables, Alright, next stop, Romania. Now, Romania is famous for its vampire legends, its dark forests, its gothic castles. But there's a lesser-known legend from the Transylvania region that involves pumpkins. And it's absolutely bizarre. It's called the Dovleac Mare. The Great Pumpkin. But this isn't some Charlie Brown wholesome story. This is nightmare fuel. According to Transylvanian folklore, there's a spirit that appears once every 50 years during the autumn equinox. It takes the form of a massive, rotting pumpkin with glowing eyes and a mouth that moves on its own. The Dovleac Mare is said to be a guardian spirit, but not a friendly one. It protects the boundary between the living world and the world of the dead. And if you cross that boundary during its watch, it will consume your soul. The legend says that during certain autumns, usually during years of great tragedy or upheaval, the Dovleac Mare manifests in remote villages. It appears in fields, at crossroads, near cemeteries. And it doesn't move. It just sits there, waiting. But here's the catch: if you acknowledge it, if you look at it, speak to it, or even think about it too much, it will follow you home. Finally, out of frustration, Nikolai kicked it. Bad move. The pumpkin split open. And inside wasn't seeds or flesh. It was darkness. Pure, empty darkness. And from that darkness came a sound, a low, rumbling growl that Nikolai said felt like it was coming from inside his own chest. He ran. Sprinted all the way home, slammed the door, locked every window. But that night, he heard scratching. On his door. On his walls. On his roof. And when he peeked through the window, there it was. The Dovleac Mare. Sitting in his yard. Staring at his house with those glowing, hollow eyes. Nikolai survived. Barely. The village priest performed an exorcism. They burned protective herbs. They chanted old prayers. But Nikolai was never the same. He refused to go near pumpkins for the rest of his life. Wouldn't even eat pumpkin soup. And to this day, in certain parts of Transylvania, people avoid leaving pumpkins outside after dark. Especially during the equinox. Because you never know when the Dovleac Mare might be watching. Now let's head to Mexico. Mexico has an incredibly rich tradition around death and the afterlife, especially with Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. It's a beautiful celebration, honoring ancestors with altars, marigolds, sugar skulls. But there's a darker side to these traditions. A legend that doesn't get talked about much outside of rural communities. It's called La Calabaza de los Muertos. The Pumpkin of the Dead. This legend comes from the state of Oaxaca, deep in the mountains where old beliefs still mix with modern traditions. The story goes that long ago, during pre-Hispanic times, pumpkins were considered sacred vessels. Not just for food, but for spirits. Shamans would use hollowed-out gourds and pumpkins in rituals to communicate with the dead. But one shaman, his name has been lost to history, tried to go further. He wanted to trap a spirit permanently. Bind it to the physical world so he could control it, use its power. So during a blood moon, he performed a forbidden ritual. He carved a pumpkin with specific symbols, filled it with offerings, and spoke the old words. And it worked. Too well. The spirit came. But it wasn't just any spirit. It was something ancient. Something that had been waiting for a doorway back into the living world. The shaman tried to close the ritual. Too late. The spirit entered the pumpkin, and the pumpkin began to change. It grew. It pulsed. And then it spoke. In a voice like grinding stones, it said, "You have given me form. Now I will give you eternity." The shaman screamed. Tried to destroy the pumpkin. But every time he struck it, it reformed. And slowly, piece by piece, the spirit began pulling the shaman inside the pumpkin. His body. His soul. Everything. When the villagers found him the next morning, all that remained was the pumpkin. Sitting in the center of his ritual circle. And carved into its surface was a face. The shaman's face. Twisted in agony. They tried to burn it. Bury it. Smash it. Nothing worked. Finally, they sealed it in a clay pot and hid it deep in a cave, marking the entrance with warnings. But here's the terrifying part. Every few decades, someone finds the cave. Usually by accident. Explorers, treasure hunters, curious locals. And every time someone opens that clay pot, the pumpkin is still there. Still fresh. Still bearing the shaman's face. And those who touch it report the same thing, a voice in their head, whispering in a language they don't understand, begging to be released. Most people reseal the pot and leave. Some don't. And, alright, we've traveled the world. But let's bring it back home to the United States. And no, we're not talking about the headless horseman. Everyone knows that story. We're talking about something older. Something that Washington Irving might have heard about but chose not to write down. It's called the Pumpkin Keeper. In the real Sleepy Hollow, yes, it's a real place in New York, there's a local legend that predates the famous Headless Rider tale. It comes from the original Dutch settlers in the 1600s. The Dutch brought pumpkins to the New World, and they took their farming seriously. But they also brought their superstitions. One of those superstitions involved the Hodenmaker, the guardian of the harvest. According to Dutch folklore, every harvest had a spirit that protected it from thieves and blight. You had to respect that spirit. Make offerings. Show gratitude. But one farmer in the Sleepy Hollow area, a man named Peter van der Berg, didn't believe in such nonsense. He was a successful farmer. Huge pumpkin patches. He'd sell his produce in New York City, make good money. But he was also greedy. He'd let pumpkins rot in the fields rather than give them to the poor. He'd work his laborers to exhaustion. One autumn, right before harvest, a beggar came to his farm. Asked for a single pumpkin. Just one. He was starving. Peter laughed and kicked him off the property. That night, Peter had a dream. He was walking through his pumpkin patch, and every single pumpkin had a face. They were watching him. Judging him. He woke up in a cold sweat. The next morning, his entire crop was gone. Not stolen. Not rotted. Just, gone. The vines were empty. Like the pumpkins had never existed. Peter was ruined financially. But that wasn't the end of it. Every autumn after that, on the anniversary of the day he turned away the beggar, Peter would see something in his fields. A figure. Made entirely of pumpkins and vines. Tall, humanoid, but wrong. Its head was a massive jack-o'-lantern with a permanent, twisted grin. It never spoke. Never moved toward him. But it watched. Every year. Always there. Peter went mad within 5 years. He died alone, bankrupt, raving about the keeper. Now here's where it gets creepy. Even today, people in Sleepy Hollow report seeing the pumpkin keeper. Especially in abandoned fields or farms that have a history of neglect or cruelty. It appears as a tall, scarecrow-like figure with a jack-o'-lantern head, standing perfectly still. If you see it and you've wronged someone, especially through greed or selfishness, it will follow you. Not immediately. Not violently. But it will be there. In the distance. Watching. And eventually, your luck will run out. Your harvest, literal or metaphorical, will fail. Some locals say the only way to appease the pumpkin keeper is to give freely. To show generosity. To honor the harvest. Others say once it marks you, there's no escape. So if you're ever in Sleepy Hollow and you see a figure standing in a field, motionless, with a glowing pumpkin head, maybe reconsider your life choices. So there you have it. 5 pumpkin legends from around the world. From Scotland's Watcher to Japan's vengeful spirit. From Romania's guardian of death to Mexico's trapped souls. From America's harvest keeper to countless other stories we didn't even have time to cover. But here's the thing that connects all of these legends, across continents, across centuries. Respect. Every single one of these stories is about what happens when you disrespect nature, the harvest, the cycle of life and death. When you take without giving. When you waste without gratitude. When you mock what you don't understand. And pumpkins, for whatever reason, have become symbols of that balance. Maybe it's because they grow from the earth, feed communities, mark the changing of seasons. Maybe it's because their shape and color make them easy to anthropomorphize, to turn into faces, into vessels for stories. Or maybe, just maybe, there's something genuinely supernatural about them. Something we've sensed for thousands of years but can't quite explain. I don't know. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to find out. But I'll tell you this, next time you carve a jack-o'-lantern, maybe take a moment. Say a quiet thank you. Show a little respect. Because if even a fraction of these legends have truth to them, you don't want to end up like Callum, or Takashi, or Peter. You don't want the Watcher, or Hannah's ghost, or the Dovleac Mare, or the Pumpkin Keeper coming for you. Stay safe out there. Happy autumn. And remember, the pumpkins are always watching.